extend a hearty welcome to doctors who have come from across India, and I saw some coming from abroad as well for your main program tomorrow. So, over the next 30 minutes, I wish to take you on a fascinating journey about the history of a city that is a personification of Tamil culture and civilization. So, on that note, Madurai, the cradle of Tamil culture and civilization. So, I would like to first thank Dr. Sampath, who thought that people coming in here to this city should take back something more than what the conference has to offer. And I would like to start by saying that right now we are sitting in a place that has been recognized as one of the oldest cities in the world, which has been privy to a continuous, thriving, living civilization. And in ancient period, the name of Madurai was Kudal. Kudal means a confluence. So right now, கூடுறது அப்படின்னா வந்து கூட்டம் கூடுறது. How many of you here don't know Tamil? Oh, okay. I will stick to English then. So Kudal means a confluence, like how you are now a Kudal of doctors. So what was Madurai a Kudal of? It was a Kudal of Tamil scholars. For those of you familiar with Tamil history, the story of the three Sangams, a Sangha being again an organization which the Madurai kings supported, the story of the three Sangam, which we cannot go into, of course, for paucity of time, was born out of the zeal to emphasize the inseparable bond between Madurai and Tamil. Tamil as a language has some very old literature from over 2 millennia ago. And our oldest extant work is a Tamil work of grammar known as the Tolgapiyam, composed by Tolgapiyar. Here in this work, this is a testimony to the very long association between Madurai and Tamil. In a sutram, an aphorism, he says, "This is the heartland of Tamil language. Sen Tamil Nilam, pure Tamil, survived and flourished between the banks of the river Vaigai and the river Porunai." Of course, Vaigai is running here in Madurai. Porunai runs further down south in Tirunelveli and today goes by its Sanskrit name, Tamarabarani. And this Madurai was under the rule of a very equally famed ancient dynasty called the Pandyas. Pandya, the word itself means ancient and old. And again, categorically, they have been identified as one of the longest ruling dynasties of the world, where they were intermittently ruling the soil for over 2 millennia. Now, these are all not Puranic legends or stories that I'm telling you. These are historic facts backed by archaeological evidence. And in one of her poems, the very famous Tamil Sangam poet Avvayar sings, "சோழநாடு சோறுடைத்து சேரநாடு வேழமுடைத்து பாண்டிய நின் நாட்டுடைத்து நல்ல தமிழ்." Solanadu, the Chola country on the banks of the river Kaveri, was known as the rice bowl of the south. Solanadu sorudaithu. Soru means rice. Seranadu, as you can see in that purple color, abuts the Western Ghat mountains and was dense with an elephant population. So, Seranadu Vedamudaithu, where Vedam means elephant. Pandya, what did the Pandyas have? The Cholas had their granaries, the Cheras had their elephants, the Pandyas had Tamil, says Avvayar. Pandyan in Natudaithu, Nalla Tamil. So how do we know that the Pandyas ruled here for such a long time? Again, we have to go back to Tolgapiyam, which has been dated to 2700 years before present. And there he keeps an aphorism, Ponde Vembe Arena, where Vembe means the neem tree, and the neem flower was the royal flower of the Pandyas. So this finds mention in a grammar work that was composed 2700 years before now, attesting to the fact that the soil was under Pandya rule. Then we have Kaudilya's Ardhashastra, which talks about the Pandyas. Then we have Emperor Ashoka's rock edicts in Girnar, dated to 250 BCE, that also talk about the Pandyas. Now, even more surprising for you to understand the importance, the historical significance of the place that you are sitting in, no other Indian city of ancient times has been described and recorded by so many foreign travelers, starting from Megasthenes in the 3rd century, Strabo in the 1st century BCE, this is all before Christ, right? Ptolemy, the famed Greek astronomer and mathematician, comes in 150 Common Era, and he mentions the brisk trade that was happening between Madurai and the Greeks, calling it the Mediterranean Emporium of the South. Then comes Pliny the Younger, a contemporary historian, and there you see the periplus of the Erythraean. Erythraean Sea was the old name of Indian Ocean. And it was an account given by an unnamed Greco-Roman soldier in the 2nd century Common Era, where he mapped all the ports on the South Indian sea coast, of which 2 ports belong to the Pandyas, Korkai and Kanyakumari. Korkai, from where the world-famed pearls of the Pandya seas and coral from the Gulf of Mannar was exported to various countries, right from Egypt and Greece to China on this side. There was a huge trade network that was flourishing. And Sangam literature refers to a huge corpus of literary works composed by several hundred poets who lived between 3rd century BCE and 2nd century Common Era. Now that was for a long time the primary source that spoke about our great ancient cities and ports. It is only in recent times that the central and state government archaeological departments have intensified excavation of several sites in Tamil Nadu and Kerala, which was of course the erstwhile Cheranadu, digging up copious evidence taking back in time the antiquity of the Tamil people. Now all these marked in red are ongoing excavations in Tamil Nadu, which are rewriting the history of the Tamil people every day as we speak. Proof of this has been found in Sivakalai, which is just 75 kilometers from where we are sitting, where there is a 500-acre urn burial site from where a lot of iron objects were unearthed. Professor Rajan, the archaeologist who was the lead director, made a stunning announcement in January this year, where they had sent the iron objects to there's something called beta analysis in a lab in Florida, the US, because normally we accept things things without questioning if it comes from another source. So they sent it all the way to the US and got it dated, and he made the stunning announcement that iron was used in Tamil Nadu between 3345 BCE and 2953 BCE, meaning Tamils then had the technology of smelting the iron ore at 1500 degrees Celsius, mind you. So this was a huge revelation and stunned the academic world as well. Today, the excavations going on around us are validating or are being proven right by the accounts that were recorded by our Sangam poets in the Sangam literary works. If I were to give just one example, Adichanallur is another urn burial site just a stone's throw away from Sivakalai. Now you'll be surprised that this was first excavated by a German in the year 1876. The site lay idle till 2004 when ASI decided to start digging. A lot of artifacts in gold, pottery, but more surprisingly, skeletons, human skeletons were found. Now this threw up a very fascinating fact. These skeletons were studied and were found to belong to different human races like Mongoloids, Australoids, and Caucasians. This left archaeologists confused. Why are all these skeletons from foreign races buried in an urn burial, that is a burial pit, somewhere near Thoothukudi, which is where Adichanallur is? The answer to this puzzle was provided by a Tamil literary work. Now, how many cities in the world can boast of a literature, a work of literature dedicated to singing its praise from before 2000 years? Madurai Kanji, one of the Sangam literary works, sings the praise of Madurai and more so the river Vaigai. And there it sings, Aaru kidandanna ahal nedunteruvil palveru kulaathu isai எழுந்து ஒலிப்ப. What it means, the streets of Madurai are as broad as the river Vaigai, where the din of people speaking different tongues can be heard. Now this directly referred to the expats, the traders, the Greek warriors. Madurai then was far more cosmopolitan than what it is now, and the streets were also far more wider and broader than what they are now. That is the irony of it. Now Korkai was a bustling trade city near Madurai, which served, of course, under the Pandya rule, which served as a kind of midway station. See, goods were brought from Egypt and Greece to the midway station. Goods were brought from China to the midway station. They were exchanged, and the Chinese went their way, Egyptians went their way, right? So this saved half the travel time. So Korkai, on the banks of the Bay of Bengal then, was a midway station, meaning there were expat communities living there with the approval and permission of the Pandya king. So they lived and died and were buried there. And this clarification, mind you, was given by Mangudi Marudanar in his Madurai Kanji. Recently, William Dalrymple in his book, The Golden Road, How Ancient India Transformed the World, has touched upon this elaborately, but unfortunately without giving due credit to either the Pandyas or the enterprising Tamil people who did all this trade 2000 years before. Because of their association with the seas, probably the naval landscape as we know in Tamil, the Pandyas had the twin fish as their royal emblem. Now in excavations going on in a place called Keeladi, which is just 20 minutes from where we are sitting, they unearthed potsherds and ring wells with the mark of the fish. The Keeladi site has been dated to 6th century BCE, proving without doubt that there should have been a Pandya administration. Of course, it also goes without saying that the mother goddess of the Pandyas was named after the fish. She was the fish-eyed one. She was Kayal Kanni. The name Meenakshi comes much later. When Amarnath Ramakrishna, the director of ASI, made his announcement in 2017 about the findings at Keeladi, the Tamil world, especially we in Madurai, were in a state of euphoria. Now what Amarnath did, he opened the site and invited the public in. So no other archaeological excavation in down south or in Tamil Nadu had created the kind of buzz that Keeladi created. And this he did maybe with foresight, because the moment all these findings started coming out, ASI unceremoniously shunted him out of Keeladi's site. Well, a lot of political reasons behind it. What was the reason? Way back in 1924, when Sir John Marshall announced the Indus Valley civilization to the world, he made a profound statement, again with a lot of insight, that it was most likely a Dravidian civilization. Now the findings in Keeladi by Amarnath Ramakrishna was sort of validating Sir John Marshall's announcement. This is Mohenjo-daro, the citadel. Many of you may have seen this picture in your 10th standard history book, if you can recall. This is Keeladi. The size, the quality of the bricks, the way of laying being very similar. The kind of pottery, lakhs of pieces of BRW, what we call black and red ware, were unearthed from Keeladi, the same pottery that is significantly marking Indus Valley. Most importantly, graffiti. See, before Brahmi, that is the ancient script, comes graffiti. And many of the potsherds in Keeladi carried graffiti marks that are very similar to the graffiti found from pottery in Indus sites. And the similarity does not end there. This is the proof that earth gave. But the speciality about Tamil Nadu and Madurai as its cultural capital comes from the fact that in our everyday life, we have several markers of proof that we are linked to this ancient civilization of the Indus, right from the Sangu Valayal, the conch bangles, which are spoken about in a number of places in our Sangam literature. Of course, today our brides don't wear them, but brides in West Bengal still do. So there are some connects that we still need to research and understand. And the Arasamartha Sutram pathingla, that is a practice that was there in the Indus, because the banyan tree is celebrated in Indus seals, and they are all votive seals, meaning they are related to worship. And then comes another seal which has the Sabda Kannimar, something that we find in all temples down south. This was a kind of a worship where Tamil people worshipped or revered the stars in the sky. Now today these Sabda Kannimars have been given Sanskrit names and some Puranic stories and all. All this is a much later addition. The Indus seals as well as Tamil folklore carry these Sabda Kannimar because they represented the star constellation of Ursa Major. So that is why, because they were a seagoing people, they were a navigating people, and it was the stars that guided them and kept them safe in the seas. Now, hopefully, many of you post-conference will be visiting the Keeladi Museum. The government has created an excellent site museum. What you see there are earpieces made of clay. So people had the habit of putting it in their earlobes and getting the earlobes elongated. Fashion statement 2000 years ago that continues till this day in Tamilagam, where this ornament, albeit made of gold, is called Pambadam. It basically follows the same design structure of those clay earrings, and unfortunately with every passing generation, few of these cultural elements are lost forever. So with my grandmother's generation, the Pambadam has gone out. So today you will not see anyone from the next generation wearing this because that is how it elongates the ear. So this is the Keeladi Museum. Please do visit if you have time. One more proof that these elements of culture are continuing with us comes from Adichanallur, where they unearthed a gold diadem. It's called Nethipatta in Tamil. And even today in Tamil weddings, the bride and the bridegroom, they are made to wear this Nethipattai. So these are all traditions continuing for over 2,500 years. Then one cannot talk about Madurai and not talk of Jallikattu, our famed sport, which some of you may have heard of. It is a taming of a bull fight that, when a few years ago there was a ruckus created by the PETA organization who had it banned by the Supreme Government. So who went to court and fought it and won back our rights? Of course, Madurai. So for us, all these are, elements in our psyche and we fight for them. And what is most unique is that in those days, in ancient Sangam literature, in a work called the Kalitohe, the line goes, Kollettu Kodanjuvanai Marumayum Pullale Ayamagal. You'll be very surprised to know the origin of the Jallikattu. These huge, powerful bulls were reared as pet animals by the heroine, right? And if a hero wanted to win her hand in marriage, what did he have to do? Tame the bull. So that is the origin, so beautifully recorded and left for posterity in our Tamil Sangam work, and beautifully represented in an Indus seal. The seal that you see on the right is from the Indus Valley. So then comes Madurai's most famous tagline, Tunga Naharam, the city that never sleeps. Madurai is one of the few places where if you go at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the night, you will get hot idlis in the town area, because then and now, Madurai is a trading city. So agricultural produce from the villages all around come to the night market, gets shifted into their lorries and loadings and go to different places. So you will see the town bustling at midnight. This was the same thing that was there 2,000 years ago as well. And how do we know this? In the Silappadigaram, which is a post-Sangam work, Ilango Adigal records this as Nalangadi and Allangadi, the day market and the night market. Even before Silappadigaram, which belongs to the 3rd century Common Era, again the Madurai Kanji also has a line where it says, Vovu Kandanna Iru Peru Niyamattu. I really felt very nostalgic and sad on reading this line. Do you know what it means? Vovu means a painting. In Madurai Kanji, Magudi Marudanar says, the streets of Madurai look like a painting, picture perfect. The high aesthetic sense of ancient Tamils, which is sorely missing today in our city. Won't you agree, doctor? And he says, Iru Peru Niyamam, a huge bustling day bazaar and a night bazaar. So all the Silappadigaram and Aimperum is part of 5 great epics that come after the Sangam period. And you will be surprised that they all profess Jainism and Buddhism. Post-Sangam comes the 18 didactic works known as the Padanenkil Kanakku Noolgal, which are all about ethics and moral values, and all of them by Jain monks. There is a big argument going on even today as to whether Thiruvalluvar, the most famous among them, who gave us the Tirukural, was a Jain monk or a Saivite person. Well, he was above caste and faith, so we will leave it at that. But what we should understand is that Madurai has a very, very, very deeply inbuilt Jain connectivity. Around the 6th and 7th century, starting with the rule of the medieval Pandyas, the entire country, including the Pandya king, followed Jainism. And as reminder of this, all around Madurai, in 18 places, you will see the bas reliefs of Jain Tirthankaras on these rock formations. If you have time, please do visit one. And see, Madurai and cultural amalgamation go hand in hand. Buddhist monk in a temple in Madurai, Buddhism and Jainism supported non-violence and non-killing of animals. Unfortunately, they were taken over and made into the what is known as the Muni Koil today, or Pandi Koil. Madurai also is home to 2 of the 6 holy abodes of Lord Muruga. If you have heard of the Arubadai Veedu. The Arubadai Veedu concept was first given by the ancient poet Nakkirar in a work called Thiru Murugu Aatrupadai, again in Sangam times. And one of them is the beautiful Tirupurangundram temple, which lies to the north of the city. It's a rock-cut temple. If you have time, please do visit. And attesting to its ancientness is again a line from Sangam literature that goes, Sinammigu Murugan Tanparangundrathu Anduvan Padiya Sandu Kedu Neduvarai. Sinammigu Murugan. Muruga is the original warrior god, Tamil deity. You cannot change his name to Subramanya, give him 2 wives and bring a pacified form. He was always the ferocious war god for us. And Sandu Kedu Neduvarai says, once upon a time, the Tirupurangundram hill was, Sandu means sandalwood trees, was full of the dense sandalwood trees. Of course, you won't see even a single tree now. So this is Tirupurangundram. The other one is again Palamudirchole, which lies on the south side of the city, atop the Alagar hills, and makes for a beautiful day trip. When you talk of Madurai, you cannot be without mentioning the famed Madurai Malli. Of course, today we have our GI tag, and every day tons of the flowers exported worldwide, where it has gone into the perfumeries in France, so much so that we, the local people, end up paying through our nose for 1 mulam of Malligepu. There is but one scene that you will see every day evening on the streets, when you read all these literary works from 2000 years ago, one cannot, not be struck by awe in how these things are continuing till today. Now, I haven't seen this even in Chennai, but in Madurai, in every residential area, evenings, 4 o'clock, 4:30, you have the flower selling lady. She'll be bringing the flower in a cooler like that, Malipu, Malipu, they'll be shouting on the streets. And we go and haggle and bargain and buy, as if you have to save on that and, save for your children. So I used to find that very odd, because where we are losing money in so many places, why go and haggle with the poor flower lady? There is a line from Natrine, again from the Sangam corpus, that says, Tui Thalai Idal Pain Kurukattiyodu Pittigai Viravu Malar Kolliro Ena Vandusul Vattiyal. It says, there were bees around that Vattiyal. That's called a Vattiyal because Vattam, circle shape, what she's having the flower in. It was surrounded by honeybees that were being attracted by the flowers inside. Vandusul Vattiyal Tiridalum Tandalai Ulavar Tanimada Mahale. Tandalai Ulavar means a horticultural farmer. He was growing only flowers, and it was the daughter, her daughter, who was going around selling flowers. And every poem has a very beautiful setting. This particular Nattine poem is sung by a hero. So every day he waits in the evening, straining his ears to hear the voice of his loved one coming in the street selling the flowers. So that's how the poem goes. The beauty of Sangam literature. Then, of course, Madurai, a foodie's delight. Silappadiharam talks about how wafts of aroma of appam being fried in ghee came on the streets of Madurai and reached the nostrils of the hero and heroine, that is Kannagi and Kovalan, even before they entered the city. Then and now, Madurai people are foodies. We like to eat our food, and that keeps the doctors here very happy, I must add. So all this If you get a chance, do taste our jigardanda, our bun barota, and our curry dosai, which is very, very famous. So, after a long stint till the 14th century with the Pandyas, Madurai for a few decades went into the hands of the Delhi Sultanate, at which time the temple was all but closed. But then came a revival of sorts with the Vijayanagara dynasty from Andhra coming here and capturing power through their vassals known as the Nayaks. The Nayaks then declared themselves independent rulers and ruled Madurai for 3 centuries, when there was a renaissance of sorts, renaissance of culture, of new traditions, of amalgamation of traditions, as well as a flowering of art and architecture. The temple that you see today, in all its grandeur and the gobrams and the beautiful mandapams with the sculptures inside, are mostly a contribution of the Nayak kings, to whom we have to be very, very thankful. And this is the beautiful Thirumalai Nayakar palace, Thirumalai Nayakar being the most famed among them. He brought in a list of festivals, a new festival calendar to bring around the people into celebratory mode throughout the year. And one of his brainwaves was the Chitrai Tiruvizha that is celebrated every year in the month of April. I'll take another 5 minutes. In the month of April and May, when we celebrate the celestial wedding of our mother goddess Kayal Kanni, who now becomes Meenakshi. And she now has her own Puranic story that declares her as a Pandya queen. So there the story goes, there was a Pandya king called Malayatwajan who was childless for a long time. He sits and does the Putra Kameshti Yagam for getting a progeny and is blessed with a child. So how does a child come? You know, if you see the Puranic stories, not just the birth of Meenakshi, take the birth of Sita, the Draupadi for that matter, all these powerful women, they don't come from a mother's womb, they come from earth. So here Meenakshi comes from the sacrificial fire. A 5-year-old child steps out, goes and sits on the lap of Kanjanamale, the wife of Malayatwaja Pandian. And this fellow, instead of being grateful, laments said, "Oh God, after all this yaga, you give me a girl." So then there is a divine voice coming saying, don't underestimate her. She will be representative of the woman power in the soil for centuries to come. Yes? So then the voice says, bring her up as you would a boy. And so the king teaches her archery, warfare, everything, and the king dies prematurely and Meenakshi becomes the queen of Madurai while still in her teens. And then she goes on a rampage defeating all the kings on the earth, all the kings in the netherworld, and then lands up in the heavens, goes to war with the Devas, defeats all of them, and finally lands up where? At Mount Kailash. There Nandi, the commander-in-general for Lord Shiva, sits and questions, and she says, I've come to wage war with your Lord, ask him to come out. Lord is as usual in meditation inside, you know. So Nandi becomes furious and makes his 8,000 Budaganas go to war, and Meenakshi defeats and vanquishes the entire army of Budaganas. Then Shiva finally, like all men, very late, after hearing all the commotion, slowly he comes out from his reverie. And he sees there's one big battle that has been fought and there is this ferocious lady with a bow and arrow. Then the story goes, one look, she saw him, he saw her, it was love at first sight, and Meenakshi dropped her bow and arrow. Who vanquished whom? We will not discuss here. It's left to your imagination. But then what happens? Lord Shiva says, go back, my dear, to your city of Madurai. I will come down and marry you. So Meenakshi comes back, tells her mother, you know, if you go to a temple, please notice there's something called, there's a mandapam in which you will see that Meenakshi is shown with 3 breasts. She was born with 3 breasts. And the divine voice will say that the moment she sees her man, the 3rd breast in the middle will disappear. So she comes back to Madurai and the mother sees that her 3rd breast has disappeared. And Meenakshi says, yes, I have found the man for me. Whom? Asks her mother. And she says, Lord Shiva. And like any other typical mother-in-law, Kanjanamale is very disappointed. Oh, that man is a madcap fellow, dancing in the crematorium, always wearing ashes. You are a queen. Why the hell did you fall in love with him? So then Meenakshi, sends a message to the heavens saying, please, when you're coming down to Madurai, I am a queen, so you come suitably dressed. So then the mad fellow leaves off all his chadamudi, goes in for some hair makeover do, and wears jewelry and, pattada and all, and comes to Madurai as Sundareshwarar. So in Madurai, he is Sundareshwarar, the most beautiful and handsome one. And not only that, the fellow comes here and has the guts to ask for dowry. He makes a deal with Meenakshi saying, see, I am the lord of the universe. For me to come and be in the city where you are the ruling queen, what will people think of me? So please let me rule the city for 6 months in a year. So every year in April, May, before the Tirukalyanam, that is a celestial wedding, there is a ceremony where Meenakshi takes over as Queen of Madurai. And the same ceremony gets repeated in August, that is Avani Maso, where the scepter, in mark of the coronation, is taken from Meenakshi's hand and symbolically put in Lord Sundareshwarar's hand, meaning that for the next 6 months, till next March, it is Sundareswarar who is ruling Madurai. So these kind of, these are all like, it is just a story, it is just Purana, it is just folklore, it is just tales. But our children, they love it. And during those 10 days, the city wears a festive look. Lakhs of people witness the divine celestial wedding that takes place. And that is Madurai for you. So I have to conclude, because yesterday was Gandhi Jayanti, I thought I must conclude with talking about the association between Mahatma Gandhi and Madurai. During his time, he came to our city 5 times. And what is most important is the episode that happened on September 22nd, 1921, where on the previous day night, Mahatma decides to give up his traditional Gujarati attire and decides to become the half-naked fakir, as Sir Winston Churchill so famously described, with his loincloth. So the next day morning, he steps out. He is to address a meeting in Karaikudi. Before that, he has a public meeting here on our Kamarajar Salai, and people are stunned. And he says, till India wins freedom, until all my poor brethren have been uplifted, this is going to be my dress. So the specific place where he addressed the public for the first time in his new attire today is marked as Gandhi Portal in Madurai. That is the very beautiful Gandhi Museum, which you can visit again. If you don't have time, I welcome all of you to come back to Madurai, right? So this is just a sampling, that was when the Gandhi Smarak Committee wanted to create a museum after Gandhiji's demise. The first people to make an offer of space was Madurai. And this was in 1949. So immediately after. And this was Rani Mangammal, she was a Nayak queen, her summer palace. So the government of Tamil Nadu handed over the palace, and here you have a piece of the blood-stained cloth that the Mahatma wore when he was assassinated, and we also have interned some of his ashes. So this is a very holy place for us, as holy as the Meenakshi Amman temple, where then and now Madurai is a place of communal and religious harmony. And every last Friday of every month, we have an interreligious prayer there where the ashes have been interned. So this for you is the Gandhi Museum. So with these few words, I thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. About singing the praise of our own place, what else can give more happiness and joy? And if any of you are interested in knowing more about Tamil antiquity, our culture, our history, which is undergoing a sea change every day thanks to archaeological discoveries, you can keep track of my YouTube channel, where there is an elaborate research packed into 110 episodes that talks about Tamil, nothing but Tamil. Thank you for your patient listening.